Let's talk about a fast and fun way to hone your narrative skills, the 6-word story. This is the perfect daily writing exercise that will engage your creative mind, and you can use the 6-word story as a warm-up or a way to prompt flash fiction, short stories, or even long-form fiction down the line. So let's get started by answering the question, what is a 6-word story? A 6-word story is a form of flash fiction that tells a complete story in just 6 words. This method challenges the writer to convey a narrative and evoke emotions, and often provide a twist or surprise within a limited word count. The most famous example is attributed to Ernest Hemingway, and it goes, "For sale, baby shoes, never worn." Think about that. Okay, let's go over how to write a 6-word story in 6 steps. Step 1, choose a theme or emotion. So the first thing you want to do is decide on the central lesson or emotion you want to convey. This could be anything from love to loss to joy or suspense. You may have a hard time teaching a lesson in just 6 words, so you can focus on just evoking a strong emotion instead. Step 2 is identify the key elements of your story. So think about the essential elements of your story, and those would be things like character, setting, and conflict. Now, these elements should be implied rather than explicitly stated because, again, we only have 6 words, so we can't really get into the details of our story. And don't worry, I'm going to show you an example of a 6-word story at the end of this video so that you can see how exactly to do that. But let's go over the example from earlier, "For sale, baby shoes never worn." In this story, a tragic loss is implied but not stated, and the implied characters would include a baby and their parents. Step 3 is to draft a sentence. So you want to write a sentence that captures the essence of your story and focus on the core ideas to ensure the reader can understand what you're saying with minimal words. At this point, if you go over 6 words, that's okay. We just want to focus on getting the idea of your story down on paper. Step 4 is to refine and edit. Trim unnecessary words and refine your sentence to exactly 6 words. Now, the trick of this part is that each word should add a significant meaning to your story, so you can't have any kind of useless words in this first draft. Step 5 is to add depth and emotion. You want to ensure that your 6 words evoke emotion and intrigue. The reader should feel something or be curious about the larger story behind your words. Step 6 is to test and revise. Share your story with others to see if it resonates with them or sparks their imagination. Based on their feedback, make any necessary revisions. You can use this format to write all sorts of different stories, but 2 popular forms of the 6-word story are the 6-word memoir, where you talk about yourself or a specific moment in your life, and another one is the 6-word horror story, where you try to imply a horrifying story in just 6 words. The horror stories are probably the easiest to start with because you already know the emotion you're going for. It's fear. Okay, let's run through an example of a 6-word story so I can show you how these steps work in practice. I'm going to write a 6-word horror story because I like those. I think they're fun. So let's do that now. I'm going to flip the camera around. Okay, step 1 is to evoke an emotion. Now, I'm going with fear because, like we said earlier, with a 6-word horror story, it's pretty easy to figure out what you're going for. You're trying to scare people. So aside from fear, we might want to get a little bit more in depth and really figure out how we want to evoke fear. My thoughts were things like isolation and solitude. Those were just the first things that came to my mind. Really, this step 1 is also kind of a brainstorming session. So like I said, those are the first 2 emotions that came to my mind, so that's what I'm going with. That's where I'm going to start my story. Step 2, we want to think about our key elements. Remember, your key elements are things like characters, setting, plot. However, because this is only a 6-word story, we need to remember that we are implying these elements rather than talking about them outright. We're not doing a lot of exposition, obviously. So again, going with solitude, I started to brainstorm the kind of things that I might evoke with that solitude, the kind of subjects I might go into when I'm talking about solitude. So I was thinking of fear of the dark, fear of being alone, and then going off this fear of the dark, because that's really the one that I kind of got interested in. I talked about fear of what lingers in the dark. So those are some of the things that I want to get into with my story. Those are my key elements. Step 3, we want to draft a sentence. Now, I've already kind of marked up my sentence here. I've already written it out because I did this beforehand. But my first sentence that I came up with was, "I'm alone in the dark, but I can feel someone watching." Now, again, remember on this
drafting phase, we don't really need to worry about getting our sentence down to 6 words. That's more for the refinement stage. So here we just want to get our ideas down on paper. However, I did go back and start to eliminate words that I thought I could get rid of, because our next stage is step 4, refine and edit. So going back to step 3 here, some words that I knew I could get rid of were my pronouns, I'm and I knew I could get rid of my conjunction here. And so from there, I got it down to these 6 words. Alone in the dark, someone's watching. So that's step 4. I'm down to my 6-word story now. Alone in the dark, someone's watching. So I'm evoking that fear of the dark, and I'm also talking about things that linger in the dark, things that we can't see. So we move on to step 5, and we say add depth. And when we're thinking about adding depth, we want to go back and look at our word choice. When I talk about word choice, I'm talking about connotation, the way certain words make you feel. Some words have connotation, we call them loaded words, things like hate and love. They make us feel a certain way. When we're writing a 6-word story, we want to choose words that have a lot of connotation. Alone makes us feel a certain way. Dark makes us feel a certain way. Watching certainly does. The one word that I thought I could improve on was that someone's, and I changed it to their. And the reason I did that is because I think they has a broader meaning than someone. So when you change someone to they, the they could be anything or anyone. It could be a monster, it could be a ghost, it could be a spirit, it could be a person. But when you say someone, really you're talking about a person. So to me, using the word they is a little bit more frightening than the word some, because there's more avenues that the reader's mind can go down from here. Okay, step 6 I'm not going to do, but you want to test and revise, meaning I would go out and give this story to my friends or people that I'm comfortable with, and I would get their feedback, and based on that, I would go back and revise my story again.
That is how you write a 6-word story. It's pretty simple when you break it down into those 6 steps that we talked about. So go try your own. And if you think you have a good one and you want to share it, you can leave it in the comments down there, and maybe we'll pin the best one that we find. And other than that, I hope you found this video interesting, and I should really start to write these outros. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, subscribe and hit the like button, and we hope to see you next time. Until then, keep writing.